We spoke Friday. Friday was a big day for the NFL. Obviously, several of their star players, including Patrick Mahomes, Saquon Barkley, Odell Beckham Jr., and many others, Ezekiel Elliott, they put together a video demanding that the NFL, i.e. Commissioner Roger Goodell, would make a statement supporting Black Lives Matter, saying they apologize for, going against squelching the peaceful protest of the players, and saying that they condemn systemic racism and systemic racism. So the league did it. Roger Goodell did it. And not surprisingly, you knew it was coming, Rob. He got the president's attention. And this is important because we know, according to a deposition, that the owners admittedly were intimidated by President Donald Trump when he turned it and changed the narrative and made it not about Kaepernick protesting injustice and protesting the killing of unarmed American citizens. Trump changed the whole narrative to it was about the flag and that these football players were disrespecting the flag. When the reality is that, don't let the facts get in the way, right? The reality is that Kaepernick went out of his way to be respectful of the flag, meeting with Nate Boyer, the Army Green Beret,
who we had on the show.
Right. And Boyer suggested kneeling because kneeling in America, at least, has never been viewed as anything disrespectful. You go to church, you kneel down. You pray, you kneel down. So he said that would actually be a sign of our honoring the flag and the veterans, and still getting your point across. And so Kaepernick did that, and yet President Trump changed the narrative, and many fell for it. And now Donald Trump is continuing that, and here's what he posted on Twitter, Rob, just several hours ago, around noon this morning. Could it be even remotely possible? This is direct quote from President Trump, that in Roger Goodell's rather interesting statement of peace and reconciliation, he was intimating that it would now be okay for the players to kneel or not to stand for the national anthem, thereby disrespecting our country and our flag. Rob, this is going to be interesting to see how the NFL handles this. And you seem to have, I saw your column, very good column on Deadspin today. Is that your answer to it? But go ahead and share.
Yeah, my answer, the headline on the column was NFL should drop national anthem, embrace change. And Chris, in that column, they asked Adrian Peterson, who of course plays for Washington, if he would be kneeling this season, and he said, without a doubt. I think it won't be the idea or of who's kneeling, Chris. The question will be who's not kneeling. Do you know what I mean? As we go forward,
right? Because
of where we are and because of this movement. So my point was, if the NFL, one of the gray ladies in the country, and I'm just talking about iconic businesses,
old institutions,
right? One of those institutions that go back a long way. If they could make a change, it might lead others into understanding that, yes, Chris, the NFL can change. The NFL is willing to make some concessions and change things. So my thing is, they should eliminate the national anthem. Nobody else in the country has to stand up for the national anthem before they work. Nobody. Garbage men, radio talk show hosts, bakers, Chris, butchers, anybody else. Everybody else gets up, takes a shower.
I'm glad you didn't say bakers, butchers, candlestick man.
No, I wasn't gonna do that. Close. But nobody else does it. It doesn't make you less important or less of an American. Chris, when we go to the movie theater, do you stand up for the national anthem before the movie, or the event did you go to? No. And remember, Chris, when we were in school and the Pledge of Allegiance, you used to stand up at your desk, put your hand on your heart. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Schools don't do that anymore. I'm not saying all don't, but most don't. So that's gone by the wayside. And if two things that could come out of this for the NFL. A, you show that change can happen and that it's not the end of the world by making a change. And B, you take the pressure off the players to allow them to stay focused on the message and not have the pushback. Because there still will be pushback, Chris, from where we are, and maybe some NFL fans and some people who aren't down for the cause, who still don't understand what's going on, don't like it, and will have a hard time seeing all these black players kneeling down come prior to football games. So just eliminate the whole thing. And then, Chris, not forever. If there comes a time when we feel like this country's in the right direction, people feel together, there's some real unity, there's some fairness for everybody, not perfect, and everybody's going to be treated exactly the same, but improvement to where we feel good and we're not a divided country, and you want to bring that back, and all people feel cool about standing up and doing that, then you could always reintroduce it. There's nothing wrong with it. Up until 2009, NFL players were not NOT required, Chris, to come out of the locker room for the national anthem. It was only after the NFL started collecting money, and I'm talking about individual teams, in 2015, after 2009, they started getting, teams got like $6.9 million from the U.S. Defense Department and also from the National Guard. Then the flags came out. Then all the players have to be standing out. Then all the displays, because it was used as a recruiting tool for young guys to look at and say, man, that's awesome. Look at the display and all that, to try to get young people to be interested in the armed services.
Right.
So my point is just this. We don't need all that. The NFL could do a lot of things if they just decide to step aside from the national anthem.
I hear what your intention is, and I think what you're saying is you would save players the decision of whether or not to kneel or stand for the national anthem. And let's face it, most of us, black, white, whatever our race or ethnicity may be, you don't think a lot about the national anthem when you're at a game. Like you stand out of respect generally. But if I went to a game and there was no national anthem, I wouldn't really think twice. Not because I don't love America.
Right.
I just don't, you wouldn't really think about it. Here's the problem, though, that I see. Two of them. In doing what, in your view, would be actually an act of trying to keep the peace, on the one hand, you would take away the player's vehicle for protest. Even though it's not about the flag or the anthem, it is the best opportunity they have to protest, to bring attention to this issue. That's fine, but it's still part of, and we're going to get to this later, but Snoop Dogg came out. Well, Matt Barnes said he talked to Snoop Dogg, and they both have heard from players, NBA players, who are, and I talked to some people today and heard the same thing. Some NBA players, they want to play. Many of them want to play July 31st and onward. But they are concerned that if they come back and play, they will take away from all the attention that is focused on the racial situation in this country. And, they'll be, what does everybody say? We need a distraction. They don't want to just be a distraction. Black Americans are looking at this as a potential sea change in America, including the great athletes. And so that is the attention, you don't want it to wane. You don't want it to go away. And so you take away that opportunity. Yeah, they could wear a black band on their arm or, something like that.
Black lives
Yeah,
matter.
but that is not going to be as strong, in my view, as if they kneel during the anthem.
See,
I think that's one thing. And I think the second problem is that you will upset a lot of fans who, like we said, they at this moment in time, they're somewhat indifferent to the anthem, but they view themselves as American patriots. Some of them even black like that, but mostly white, who, if you take away the national anthem, they are going to be upset. Donald Trump will play it and he'll say the NFL has sold out America. The NFL has taken away the national anthem. They are unpatriotic. And those fans who will go watch these players play, even as mad and upset as they will be that they're kneeling for the anthem, they'll still go watch them play. They'll still bet money on them and all that. But they will be highly upset, I believe, if you take away them. They'll get used to the dudes kneeling. But if you take it away altogether, I think you could end up upsetting both sides. Now, black people might be like, oh, that's how you do it? So now you take it away. Because we were going to protest. Now you take it away. And whites on the other side, who are on the other side, will be like, oh, really? So now you're not patriotic, NFL? Now you don't care about the anthem? And so I think you could upset both sides.
Yeah, I disagree totally. I think that if you want to have a talk in this country and a change of things, this is as symbolic as it can be, that they're willing to change. You have to make something big. It's not taking away anybody's right if they want to kneel before. But kneel whenever they want to before the game starts. If they want to get into a big circle, that's not going to be any attention to that. Yes, and a big circle and kneel down before the game starts and have a prayer.
Well, they could do that.
That's the same thing, Chris. That would be your attention. We're in unity. If all the players before the game kneel down in a circle in the middle of that NFL shield, it's the same exact thing. My point is, change is coming. And you can upset the apple cart of the people go to the stadiums, but look at the masses in the streets who want change in this country. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, a lot of them want to see people kneeling too. Like, they believe it. They want to see people kneeling at the game. Now, and you're right. I'll give you that. You are right that players could easily gather in the middle of the field and pray.
I think
or
that
something
would be
like
even
that.
Stronger.
No,
as
it would be great. It would be great. So that's a good point. But let's see what the listeners think. 877-99 on Fox, 877-996-6369. Should the NFL consider getting rid of the national anthem altogether? We'll continue the conversation with you next.
Let's start with Willie in Detroit. You're on The Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Willie?
The NFL should consider taking out, because the NFL owners have always been about pay-to-play patriotism, where they take money from the Department of Defense to honor people that should be honored for free. So I really believe that they should take it out. They shouldn't be collecting a check to say that, we should respect our military.
And you know what, Willie? That probably is the most shameful thing the NFL has ever done. Teams taking money, and then they parade these veterans out to get the big ovation, but it's paid patriotism. There's nothing worse than that. And I wonder if fans knew, if you were at the stadium and you knew that the Defense Department had to spend money for that guy to come out, if you would react the same way.
Right.
Right, Chris? I mean, that's one of the – it's just low.
No,
really?
Right.
Can't believe it. All right, Monty in Georgia. You're on The Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Monty?
What's going on, man?
What's up, brother?
Man, long-time listener, first-time caller, man.
Thanks for
we broke
weighing
through.
in,
We
man.
broke
Yeah.
through.
What took you so long?
Man, look, I be working a lot, so I don't really much get a chance to really holler at you guys. But I listen to see what your rhetoric is, what you're thinking about, what I'm thinking about, and see if it match up. Rob, I like you, and then sometimes I don't like you, right? I'm going to just be a buck, right?
Yes.
If we take away the protest, then we silence the movement, right? Like, if they not able to see what's really happening out here, there's no protest on display. Then
wait a minute. Hold on, Monty.
Okay, I'm listening.
You mean like the pictures from Europe and all the people across the world? No, hold on. I'm talking about what we've seen so far. You're telling me that if all the players go to the center of the field before the game and cover up the NFL logo and lock arms together on their knees, that's not going to be powerful? You don't need the anthem. You don't need
that,
it.
But you're assuming they're going to do that,
Rob, what I'm saying is, if we're going to, we don't need reformation, in my opinion, and this is my humble opinion. We don't need reformation. We need transformation. Reformation is changing around things in a room. Transformation is changing the heart. I think we need to transform the heart. And the only way that we transform the heart of America is if they see the pain that we go through. I don't want to be opposite of my white brethren, nor do I want to be opposite of my black brethren. I'm absolutely true with my black brethren that there's things we have to clear up amongst ourselves.
All right. Yep. Appreciate the call. We could agree to disagree. I'm glad that you called in. How about JT in Texas? You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, JT?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
What's up,
We're
man?
good.
Hey, really enjoy y'all show, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
I was calling because I think we might be missing the mark, maybe on both sides. Because one of the things that I think that we need to do is do more inclusion than exclusion. And if you get rid of the anthem, right, you end up. Well, let me start a little bit. Let me backtrack a little bit. For real change, like in the 60s and 70s, right, you had to have a lot of different groups come together, right, and you had obviously the black community, right, and then you had liberal white, and then you had moderate white. You even had like the clergy. You had religious groups. All these people had to come together to force change, right? And we're kind of in a similar moment right now, right? And I think if you get rid of the anthem, I feel like you might end up losing some of the moderate whites out there.
I disagree. I think that there are a lot of people out there who are looking for change. You're seeing they're pulling down statues of questionable and bad people all over the place. There's going to be all kinds of stuff. We got a story coming up in a little bit with Kevin Youkilis, who used to play in Major League Baseball, and the petition, Chris, I thought I would never see, where they want to take the name off of the University of Cincinnati's baseball stadium, Marge Schott, who was the racist owner of the Reds. Right. So this is going around. This is not just stopping. People are looking back, even in history, to say, well, what are you doing that for? She's dead. You know what I mean? She gave $2 million to the school or whatever. This is a movement, I think, that's bigger than normal.
We've got Super Bowl champion and FS1 NFL analyst Chris Canty coming up right now. Chris, welcome to the Odd Couple, brother.
What's happening?
Hey, man, thank you guys for having me on. I hope your families are doing well and staying safe.
Thank you, man. We are, and we hope the same for you. And it's been a while since we've seen you, so it's definitely good to rap with you. Let's get right into it. Obviously, there's so much going on. I know Rob's going to have a question about this right in a moment, but I want to ask you, do you think that right at this moment, most or maybe all players in the NFL are going to kneel for the national anthem when the season resumes or when they start playing?
I think a lot of players are going to have some form of protest during the national anthem. I know Adrian Peterson went on the record this weekend and said he thinks a lot of guys around the NFL will protest and take a knee, not just the black players, but all the players. And so I think you'll see solidarity on that front. Cliff Kingsbury came out this afternoon and said that he would support his players out in Arizona protesting during the national anthem, including taking a knee. So I think there's a dramatic shift in the minds of the people that are running the league office, but also the people at the club level in the NFL. When the Bidwell family has shown the way that they've shown that they want to support their players in being able to process everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks in the fight for racial inequality, I think that's sort of a barometer in terms of where I think a lot of NFL teams will end up moving toward, ultimately trying to empower their players and amplify the message that they tried to silence 4 years ago with Colin Kaepernick.
Today, I wrote a column for Deadspin.com basically saying that the NFL should just remove the national anthem altogether, that nobody else has to stand up during a national anthem before they go to work other than players and sports writers and fans who go, as far as for their job. What do you think about that, where you just take it out of the mix, the focus stays on what it is that we're talking about, it's not about the flag, and then if people want to just kneel together in a circle as a show of solidarity on a situation, but you remove the flag totally from the conversation? Where are you on that?
Well, I don't think it's necessary. I think we're in a different place than we were 4 years ago as a country, and I think that you have overwhelming support for people from people that would believe in the players demonstrating in that fashion during the national anthem. I don't think that we have to remove the national anthem from sporting events in order to keep this from being a national controversy. I just don't think we're there. I think the needle is moved in terms of, how people view this particular issue, just because they recognize the urgency that we need to have in fixing racism in this country. I think that when we saw the video of Derek Chauvin kneeling on George Floyd's neck for over 8 minutes, that was enough for America to look itself in the mirror and say, you know what, we've got to do something to fix this because this isn't right. And the reason why George Floyd is dead, in part, is because he's black. And that has to change. And that's what the players were talking about in 2016. And so to try to manipulate the message or misrepresent what the protest was actually about, I think people have moved beyond that now. With everything that we've been faced with the last 2 or 3 months with the pandemic and now this, I think folks recognize that what we were talking about back in 2016 was never about disrespecting the men and women of the armed forces, and it was never about disrespecting the flag, but it had everything to do with forcing America to live up to the ideals that the flag is supposed to symbolize.
Super Bowl champion, FS1 NFL analyst Chris Canty joining the Odd Couple. Chris, you saw the players' video that they made demanding a statement from the NFL. Roger Goodell basically said exactly what they asked him to say on his video. I feel like if you apologize for squelching the protest, which that's what Goodell did, he apologized. I feel like you have to at least, I don't know where Kaepernick's head is at right now. Would he even want to play in the league? Would he think it was just a PR stunt and reject it or what? But I think he should be offered a job in the NFL. And do you feel that way? And do you think players maybe should push for that?
Did we lose him?
Did we lose Chris?
I think we lost him.
We lost. We'll get him back.
You asked him that tough question. He hung up on you. You always doing that. He said
he wanted no part of that capital J journalism.
Is that what it was?
Colin Cowherd would say.
I wanted that, but I'm sure we'll get him right back. The other thing, Chris, too, I want to ask is about the players who are now galvanized or whatnot. Their hands are dirty, too, with Colin Kaepernick. I think people are giving them a pass, Chris. I think they're just as guilty, and we've talked about it the whole time this is going on. They're just as guilty as the owners and the commissioner, just as guilty, if not more.
I wouldn't say more, and I wouldn't say just as. I think they're definitely guilty. Don't get me wrong. But they're not the ones that are have the control to put. I mean, yeah, they could sit out.
They shouldn't allow that to happen to one of their own. Is what I'm saying. And they turned their back on Colin Kaepernick.
Let's get to Chris. Chris, did you get my whole question before we lost you?
It was 3 minutes long, Chris.
I got your question, and I got Rob's response.
I don't know if you were avoiding
you did? Okay.
No, I got Rob's response. And to Rob's point, I mean, listen, it was a tough choice that the rest of the players in the National Football League had to make in 2016 because, guys were concerned about their career mortality if they decided to support Colin Kaepernick in protest alongside him. And I think their concerns were justified because we've seen what happened to Kaepernick. He's been out of football for the past 3 years.
They can't get rid of the whole league, Chris, and that's the point. If there's unity, they cannot get rid of the whole league. The players' union is weak. They allow the NFL to do this stuff over and over.
Rob, listen, I'm not going to argue any of the points that you're making because, listen, if we did have solidarity to that degree in the players' union, we'd win every single collective bargaining agreement negotiation. But that's not what happened. So the reality is the NFL players and the union are faced with some pretty tough constraints because of the nature of the sport and the duration of the career span. You're talking about a little over 4 years. Players aren't willing to sacrifice any of those potential earning years for the greater good. And that's what you would be asking them to do. So I just think that's a tough ask. That's a tough position to put players in. They've worked their entire lives to get to this point, and to have their dream taken away from them for a political, well, not even what should be a political stance, but just a human rights stance, it just seems like it's unfair. But now that Roger Goodell has this admission that the NFL was wrong, I think that sets the tone and that changes the dynamic in terms of opening the door for players to protest in that fashion in 2020.
Should they demand that Kaepernick is back, gets offered a job, or do you think the NFL should or will do that?
Well, it's tough to say, and I know that sounds like a cop-out. I don't know that there's anything that Roger Goodell can do to
he could
mandate
call,
that
remember,
a team can. Hold on, guys. Let me say
you remember what happened with Michael Sam?
No. Listen, I don't think that there's anything that Roger Goodell can do to mandate that a team hire Colin Kaepernick, because then you start getting into the weeds with collusion and things of that nature. But if the NFL is serious about its Inspire Change social initiative and the programs and the funds that they've raised for changing, what's going on with social injustice and racial inequality, then why not offer Colin Kaepernick a position within the league office in order to help facilitate that? We know the work that Colin Kaepernick has done. This guy has literally put his money where his mouth is with the Know Your Rights camps and all the other work that he's done with grassroots organizations in communities to fight against racial inequality and systemic oppression. So I think that will be a tremendous sign that the NFL wants to be at the forefront of this fight against racism in this country if you were to try to involve Colin Kaepernick in an official capacity. We saw the partnership that Roger Goodell rolled out with Jay-Z last fall, and they were talking about trying to tackle the issues. Everybody knows what Colin Kaepernick was kneeling for. Jay-Z said it. We all know why he was kneeling. But I haven't really heard a lot about the inroads that the NFL has made with the programs that they were talking about starting. I haven't heard a lot about the work being done through those initiatives. So I think now would be an opportunity for the NFL, if they're truly about change and they want to try to right this wrong with Colin Kaepernick to some degree, they need to try to involve him in an official capacity. I don't know if that leads to him playing football on the field this fall, but I think the NFL needs to revisit that chapter with Colin Kaepernick in order to try to figure out a way forward.
All right, that's our man, Chris Canty. Chris, thank you, man. We appreciate the knowledge.
Yes, sir.
And we'll get you back on again soon. Stay safe with your family.
All right, sounds good, guys.
All right, brother. The hottest game in radio is coming up next. Sources say it's the Odd Couple. Chris and Rob, Fox Sports Radio.